always do that. I love this app.
I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I gotta supply that fire.
What's going on, you beautiful bookworms, and welcome back to another episode of Bookmarks with Bump. I am your host, Bump. Sean Patrick Cote, a National Academy of Sports Medicine certified personal trainer. He's certified tool-setting tradesman for the state of Connecticut Department of Labor. He's certified dog. Check the resume. Regardless of what I am, what this podcast is a fun show where it's basically a social commentary podcast where we sit down and we go over my latest and greatest threads from the app X, formerly known as Twitter. Typically, we stay around the range of health, fitness, mindset, grind set, go hard, play hard. But today we're going to dive into other things. We do that often on this podcast. Basically, any threads that I might have bookmarked and left on the shelf to read at another time, and basically have found better things to do with my time than sit in front of my phone and read threads. Until I decided to come up with this half an hour to an hour of sitting down and giving my commentary on these threads that I find interesting. That's really all there is to it. It's a fun, wacky way to learn new things and just kind of have an outlet to vent. And here we are 57 weeks into it. And today is July 11th. Today's July 11th. When this comes out, it'll be July 13th. Because the episodes come out on Sunday. I have so much to talk about that it's hard to even get it going. So let's just get everything off our chest and dive into the threads. I mean, is it me? Or does the world just feel like we're in an ultimately wacky place right now? Everything that's going on here and around the globe has kind of got me in a space where I'm like, is it all going to come crumbling down soon? Because I'm not one of those guys who's like, oh, I need to build a fallout shelter and prepare for nuclear war or anything like that. Whatever happens, happens. I have more of a F it, we ball mindset. You just kind of got to take what life gives you and run with it, right? So here I am looking at the landscape of everything that's happened over this past week, and especially on Twitter. We'll start with Angel Reese. Robert Griffin III decides to get into some, for whatever reason, man, decides to reply to somebody who put out the NBA 2K cover with Angel Reese portrayed as a monkey on it, which is, racist. And for whatever reason, he decided to basically give backhanded praise for Angel Reese. He stuck up for her, vehemently going against anybody of that skin tone being labeled a monkey. He went against the racism. And yeah, I mean, that's a given, right? Anybody with common sense will see that and think that. However, he decides to bring in the whole Caitlin Clark drama into his, I guess, defending of Angel Reese, even though it comes out like an attack on Angel Reese, because he talks about how people in her camp have given him information that she hates her, which, like, all right, this is sports, man. And sports are all about competition and rivalries. And, like, you think about the stories of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson and how much they hated each other. Or how much Tom Brady hated Eli Manning. Or, they could hate each other on the field and have a relationship off of it, whatever it is. But Larry Bird always had that mentality or that mindset that as soon as he got on the court, everybody that he played against, he hated. Tom Brady, same thing, he got on the field. And every time he did, everybody that he was looking at in a different color, he hated. Not their skin, their jerseys this time. I'm kind of like taken aback by RG3 putting that information in the tweet. And it got him clowned, and it got a lot of people who clowned him clowned, and it's really just ultimately turned into a clown show, which is on the grander scale, what I'm seeing. Typically, we stay away from politics, and sometimes we don't. Like this time last year, we were talking about how Trump almost got shot in the head. And here we are. This has been like a monumental week, coming off of the high of July 4th and into the world. We have news of the FBI director, the old FBI director, James Comey, being investigated for his investigation of the Russiagate collusion. Okay, now this is hot on the heels of the Epstein case basically being closed publicly now. Like everything that they put out, and they're not going to put out anything else. And they've been talking about this list. This client list of Jeffrey Epstein's has been the talk of the decade. This is what everybody's talked about because you hear the rumors that he's intelligence and works for the Mossad, which, for those of you who don't know, is Israel's version of the CIA, similar to the KGB, which is Russia's version of the same exact thing. And Jeffrey Epstein was talked about as if he was an agent, and that's the same way they were kind of talking about Diddy in his case. Like, these people are agents, and they're blackmailing people with all of the horrendous things that we've heard about. I'm not going to talk about all those things on this podcast because it's sick, it's disgusting, we've heard about it enough, and what people honestly want is accountability, okay? And now, there is not going to be any accountability for the people who were allegedly clients of Jeffrey Epstein. They've gone over lists of names and claimed that the lists of names were just contacts, and we can't put these names out publicly because it will it kind of sabotages people, or it implicates people into things that they may be innocent of, and that I understand. However, that's not what they were saying during the election. That's not what they were saying for the last 10 years leading up to this point. That's not what they were saying when Jeffrey Epstein met his demise back during Trump's first presidency. And now here we are in the second presidency, and we have Donald Trump sitting there during a press conference saying, "Are we really talking about this Jeffrey Epstein creep? With everything going on, all the magnificent things, all the terrible things, we're going to bring up this guy?" And he tells the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, "Hey, if you want to answer this, go ahead. Waste your time on it." And she did, and what she said sounded unclear. You know, like what I said back in February, she says, was something that I said I still had to review, along with the MLK files and along with the JFK files, lumping in everything that they said they were trying to make the public aware of. Like, yeah, we'll give transparency to these conspiracies that people have been talking about for decades now. And she says that the list had to be reviewed, and it was reviewed and seemed like nothing would be conclusive enough to share with the public. And then you have Kash Patel weeks ago going on Joe Rogan and walking back a lot of the things that he said when he mentioned footage, and the footage of the detention center that he was being held in, and how, yeah, we would release that footage if there was anything there, but there's nothing there. So I just have to trust that there's nothing there. And the whole thing that I think the American citizens have been saying for many, many years is that there isn't any trust. And here was an opportunity for the government to give full transparency, and they failed again. Kash Patel said something that I agreed with when it came to, if we had footage of these horrendous acts being occurred, we wouldn't release those out of the privacy and basically the thoughts of the victims, which I agree with that. None of that stuff should be put out to the public. That's something that is basically, hey, we have you, we got you. If you want to testify against it, be my guest. But with the problem, the main problem here is that the trust is just completely been destroyed, and I think a lot of people, I talk politics is something that is talked about way too much on the day-to-day basis. But you see the shift in a lot of people who were, Trump supporters, right? And then you see like the diehard MAGAs who are still sticking up for this. And I think, whatever you want to say about the big beautiful bill and not taxing the overtime and all of these things that in layman's terms sound great, but when you unfold everything, what you see is just another web of lies. The main thing that stands out to me, one is the Epstein case. That's very alarming, especially how dismissive he was after being so forthright and wanting to expose everything and expose the lies and the distrust in the government. And now, like, who knows? Like, remember how they treated coronavirus? If you talked about coronavirus on your YouTube page, they would block your videos. And this may be another one of those things where the technocracy of government will kind of step in now that everything's shifted a little bit more right than it was 2016 to 2022, I'll say, around that period. And things after that got really like, oh, wow, we have to wake up. And now once again, we still have to wake up because no matter what side the government is on, they're still on the government side. So he campaigned on that and exposing the fraud and the corruption that exists within these creepy people. Creepy people? I spent a lot of time with these people. Yeah, what are you doing spending time with them? But moving on from that, another thing that he campaigned on was like America first, And I believe that you should be 100% before you try to put 100% into anything else. Or anyone else, or, any specific purpose or reason that's outside of yourself. Like, make sure you're good enough to handle somebody else's shit before you take on something. And not for nothing, that Ukraine-Russia thing is still going on, and there is no peace in the Middle East in this moment between what's going on in Gaza and now Israel and Iran at odds against each other. Then we get involved. And like, that's something that, listen, allegedly we went and we bombed nuclear bases. But we did that on behalf of Israel. But hey, listen, if Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli asset, why is Donald Trump doing these things for Israel? I don't know. I don't think the guy is really that great, huh? But basically, it makes you think we're on the brink of nuclear war. Russia and Ukraine isn't ending, and now we're sending more weapons over to Ukraine. We're doing all of the things that he kind of pushed back against. And it makes me think like, whoa, this is alarming. Whoa, are we going to go into a nuclear state, or are we even thinking straight anymore? As a country, as our leadership. I mean, what the hell? And I don't really have any trust in the government to begin with. And I'm not necessarily as let down as a lot of the public is. This is something that I just kind of see it coming. I think everybody on those channels that are being broadcasted as representatives and government officials, they are actors. Like, they're on TV. They're just playing a character, man. And it's all fun to them. So we kind of have to make our own fun and build our own roads, as Dave Smith would say. But we're on the brink of a nuclear disaster, and I had a thread here that was a nuclear disaster, one that's very popular, and I'm not talking Fukushima. I'm talking about in 1986, the Soviets blamed human error for the Chernobyl blast. Chernobyl. Let me get that down before we get into this thread, because I'm sure I'm going to be saying Chernobyl a lot. So, Chernobyl. The Darshak Rana put out a thread. This appears to me to be an educational thread, so let's learn something together. And as always, please follow along with the links in the description. This is a read-along show. We read through the bookmarks. We read through the thread. It's Bookmarks with Bump, the sing-along edition. In 1986, the Soviets blamed human error for Chernobyl blast. For years, the world believed this lie. Then declassified KGB files revealed something far more sinister. Here's untold truth about humanity's worst nuclear disaster. April 25th, 1986. Reactor 4 at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant was scheduled for a safety test. Ironically, this test was designed to prevent a meltdown in the event of a power outage. What followed was a cascade of unfortunate events, lies, cover-ups, ignored warnings, and Soviet secrets. The reactor design was inherently flawed. RBMK reactors were cheaper to build but unstable at low power. Soviet engineers knew this, but rather than fix the issue, they buried it in classified documents. The design flaw was a ticking time bomb. That night, operators made a critical mistake. They ran the reactor at dangerously low power, unaware of how unstable it was. Why? Pressure to complete the safety test. Deadlines mattered more than safety in the Soviet Union. At 1:23 a.m., the reactor became uncontrollable. A massive power surge occurred. The operators pressed the emergency shutdown button. But the RBMK design had a fatal flaw. This increased the power instead of reducing it. The reactor exploded. The blast ripped through Reactor 4. Radioactive debris was hurled into the night sky. Fire engulfed the building, exposing the core. But the worst part? Officials didn't sound the alarm. They lied to their own people. The first responders had no idea they were walking into hell. Firefighters arrived with no protective gear. They thought it was a routine fire. Within hours, many were vomiting, collapsing, their skin was peeling off, radiation poisoning began. The Soviet government downplayed the disaster, no evacuation orders for 36 hours. Local festivals went on as planned. Children played outside under radioactive fallout. The lies continued even as the death toll climbed. When Swedish nuclear power plants detected radiation, they traced it back to Chernobyl. The Soviet Union still denied it. But the world demanded answers, and the Kremlin finally admitted to a minor accident. The Kremlin is Russia's White House, by the way. By then, the damage was irreversible. The explosion released 400 times more radiation than the Hiroshima bomb, which wiped a city off of the planet. 200,000 plus people were displaced. Entire towns were abandoned. The area will remain radioactive for thousands of years. The full scale of the disaster is incomprehensible. The human cost was devastating. Firefighters died within days. Cleanup workers, the liquidators, were sent in without protection. Many later died of radioactive-induced illnesses. But official Soviet reports denied the connection. Even more shocking, the disaster could have been prevented. Documents later revealed that engineers had raised concerns about the reactor design for years. But in a system ruled by secrecy and fear, no one dared to speak up. The lies didn't end with the explosion. Officials falsified death tolls. Doctors were silenced about radiation-related illnesses. Survivors were left without proper support, and the truth was sacrificed to protect the Soviet image. To contain the radiation, engineers built the sarcophagus, a massive concrete structure over Reactor 4. It wasn't a solution, it was a desperate band-aid. In 2016, a new structure was built to replace it, but the radiation lingers. Chernobyl wasn't just a disaster, it was a warning. A warning about what happens when truth is buried, safety is ignored, and power becomes more important than people. It's a scar on humanity's conscience. The people of Chernobyl paid the ultimate price. They trusted their leaders, and their leaders betrayed them. Today, the abandoned town of Pripyat stands as a haunting reminder of what happens when lies take precedence over life. But are we listening? What a great thread. I didn't expect that to lead uh, into that message. That message, to me, was perfect for everything that I spoke about before we brought up the thread. I mean, the lies will lead us into disaster. The first thing I thought about when, you bring up how the evacuation was delayed, how nobody really said there was an accident until they were caught, is accountability. As we spoke about earlier, and as we speak about a lot on this podcast, the accountability of who's involved in these types of situations. I just think it's unbelievable. It's sad that people can't just own up to their mistakes. Because I've learned in life, like, there's a couple things that I've learned in life, and this is why I don't trust people older than me just because they're older than me. This is why I don't trust the government, because the government are just humans as well. Managers, I've always had this authority complex, because one thing I know in life, and I've growing up fast, I learned this early, is that you can't wait to have it all figured out, because nobody ever has it all figured out. So the best way to learn is to learn from your mistakes, but you can't learn from your mistake until you admit that you've made one. And it's okay, because every single person makes mistakes. There is no one single perfect human being. It's unattainable. So don't put too much pressure on yourself to be perfect, and don't be afraid to say, hey, I fucked up. That's what we do as athletes, in order to make ourselves better. We admit our faults, we're honest with ourselves, we're real with ourselves, and we just come back and attack even harder the next time. And that's what it takes. That's the mindset that it takes to become successful in your career, in your life, in anything. Is to not become jaded by failure. You have to be fueled by failure. You have to be fueled by food. And one of the greatest athletes of all time, a record-breaking athlete, an Olympian, Michael Phelps, used to fill up on food, a lot of fuel, all the time. And I found a thread about that. Joey Yoakim put out a thread. Links are in the description. Read along, I dare you. Michael Phelps ate 12,000 calories daily during Olympic training, yet he never got fat. Here's the metabolic science behind why and what it teaches us. The training volume reality. Phelps swam 5 to 6 hours daily, 7 days a week. That included multiple swim sessions, 2 to 3 times a day, dry land weight training, intense interval work in sprint sets. Swimming burns 500 to 1,000 calories an hour at an elite intensity. So you do the math. 6 hours of elite swimming, 6,000 plus calories burned in training alone. Add his basal metabolic rate, digestion costs, and daily movement. His daily total energy expenditure hit 10,000 to 12,000 calories. He was essentially eating at maintenance. 2, you also have the insulin sensitivity factor, because it's not all about calories in, calories out. Elite athletes develop exceptional insulin sensitivity. Their muscles become nutrient sponges, shuttling glucose into muscle tissue instead of fat storage. Phelps' body was constantly restoring muscle glycogen after training. This process alone burns massive calories. You have number 3, the thermic effect of food. And Phelps ate constantly: pasta, pizza, fried eggs, sandwiches, but digesting food burns calories too. The thermic effect can account for 10 to 15% of your total calories burned. His body was working overtime just to process all that food. Then number 4, metabolic adaptation works both ways. Just as someone dieting too hard will down-regulate their metabolism, Phelps' body up-regulated energy use to match his massive caloric intake and training demand. His metabolic engine was running on full throttle. But here's the bottom line. Phelps could eat 12,000 calories and not get fat for one simple reason. He was burning more calories than he consumed. His massive training volume created a massive caloric burn. The fancy metabolic adaptations were just bonus points. The main takeaway: you want to lose weight? Burn more calories than you eat. You don't need perfect insulin sensitivity or elite genetics. You just need to be in a caloric deficit. Have any questions? Oh, we have a phone call. Roach, you're on the pod. Say what up.
Oh, no, that just completely changed my entire... I was about to be parabolic.
I ruined your life? Or something ruined your life before you made this phone call?
You ruined my life, but like way long ago.
Anyway, the Praised. The Praise put out a thread. Please read along with me. It was about Dolph Lundgren, and he was on a podcast that I listened to, We Might Be Drunk, with Mark Norman and Sam Morrill. And he was a very cool hang, very interesting guy. And coincidentally, this thread popped up right around the same time I listened to that. So let's learn even more. Let's dive into Dolph. Young Dolph. What do you got for me? Dolph Lundgren is one of the most overqualified action heroes in the history of cinema. He had an 160 IQ. He studied at MIT. He was 6'5" and 210 pounds of pure muscle. I don't like talking about men like that. He had a master's in chemical engineering, and he sent Stallone to the ICU in Rocky IV. If he dies, he dies. The man you've seen on screen, the story you have. Born in Sweden in 1957, Hans Dolph Lundgren wasn't raised to be a movie star. His father was a strict engineer, and his mother was a school teacher. Discipline ruled the household, not drama. He was a quiet kid until he found martial arts. By 10, he was training in judo. By 16, he'd moved on to Kyokushin karate, the most brutal form. While his classmates partied, he studied and sparred. Eventually, he earned a black belt and became European champion, all while acing his exam. He earned a chemical engineering degree in Sweden, then a master's in Australia, then got MIT. He got into MIT on a Fulbright scholarship. MIT, the most elite tech school on earth. He stayed for 2 weeks. Because fate walked into his life wearing stilettos and shoulder pads. Grace Jones. He was working security at a nightclub when they met, and she invited him to NYC. He became her bodyguard, then her boyfriend. Oh, the original bodyguard. Maybe this is why they made the movie. Wait, no, that was Whitney. Soon he was doing fashion shoots and screen tests. Wow. Then came the audition for Rocky IV. 5,000 actors wanted the role of Ivan Drago. Only one looked like a Russian tank and spoke like a professor, and he got the role. The rest is cult cinema history. What people don't know is that during filming, Dolph hit Stallone so hard his heart swelled. Sly ended up in the ICU for 4.5 days. Dolph wasn't acting, that was real power. But power wasn't his only strength. Off screen, he read psychics books, practiced meditation, and wrote screenplays. He directed his own films. He kept training, studying, staying sharp, even while typecast as a mindless brute. He also battled cancer privately for 8 years. He kept acting through surgeries and treatments. In 2024, he became a U.S. citizen. Now in his 60s, he's still filming action scenes and training like it's 1985. This guy's just a dog. He's just it is what it is kind of guy. This episode is really just full circle. It's incredible. Dolph never tried to break the mold. He just was the mold. Brains, brawn, discipline, depth. A man who could quote Newton, disarm a villain, and still make it to dinner on time. Hollywood called him a musclehead, but the truth, he was always the smartest man in the room. He just happened to be the most dangerous one, too. Pretty cool guy, Dolph Lundgren, huh? It's like the full package, you know? Blonde hair, blue eyes, nice, mysterious European guy accent. What else? He had a big brain. That's crazy. I didn't know that he battled cancer, but it says that he did it privately, much like Norm Macdonald, who nobody knew he had cancer until he died. The other interesting thing was how much of a sicko Sylvester Stallone was. Like, And that's a story. Those stories have gone around forever about how Sly always wanted to get hit while filming Rocky, and like hit a lot. He's just kind of a lunatic, but aren't we all? You know, who am I to judge? But that's what I do, and that's what I'll continue to do every week on this platform here, is come on and judge the things I'm reading for everybody who's listening. And as always, it's all love. God bless.
I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. I've been riding a wave like I surf. I've been leaning in and out of work. I could show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I've been riding a wave like I surf. I've been leaning in and out of work. I could show you what it's worth. Money to the ceiling. I started at the dirt. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I give what I got, I supply that fire. I supply that fire, man. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher now. I'm a night rider. Every time that I go up past midnight, I swear I get higher. Swear I gotta get higher, man.